Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Ponytails and Pep Talks. I'm so glad that you are here today. You don't want to miss this. And as a matter of fact, if you would take the time to like and subscribe, subscribing is absolutely no charge, but it just sends a little bell and a reminder whenever the next episode comes available. Today, we're going to talk about dreams and purpose. When we go through challenges in life, we see many times that there's not quite the resources that we need around us. And it's in those times that purpose develops. You begin to look for answers, and answers lead to solutions. However, what if the best solution is not there? Then you become the solution to others. It can become your purpose in life to give others the help that your family needed. Today's guest did just that. Sophia's Hope Ranch in Boerne, Texas is a dream and purpose that has been now set into motion. My guest began having challenges after an adopted child began showing signs of detachment. She began looking for help, and the help she received was beneficial. However, there were gaps in there that need filling for the whole family to heal. And thus began the dream of Sophia's Hope Ranch, which is a nonprofit organization which provides intensive, individualized, outpatient, and residential therapy programs for the whole family. I'll let my guest introduce herself so we can get into her journey.
Great. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm Theresa Schultz. I have five grown children and five grandchildren. I'm a licensed therapist here in Boerne, Texas, and I provide therapy to all ages, couples, and individuals.
That's great. So let's go ahead and just start with tell us the challenges that began whenever you adopted Jasmine, which is
hmm
Jasmine Hope, which is who this program is named after. Tell me a little bit about how that got started and the help that you reached out for.
Yes. So we adopted Jasmine when she was 9 months old, and we
Hmm.
noticed immediately that something wasn't right. I would try to cuddle her. She would arch her back and pull away. She had speech delays. She had some aggressive behaviors, even at such an early age, and they only increased as she got older.
Yeah. So so then you did reach out for help though. And
Yes.
what did that look like? What did the help look like at the time?
So the first thing we did is we went to her pediatrician and we asked for
Hmm.
help there. And at the age of 18 months old, they wanted to put her on Ritalin.
Oh.
And so I was not a fan of that idea. So I reached out to early intervention. So we were able to get her into some treatments. We did brushing, some uh, play therapy, and those were beneficial up to a point. But
Hmm.
yeah, we saw
So
some help, but really with the other members of our family were not being addressed.
yeah, that was my next question. What did it look
Okay.
like with the other kids? Because obviously she's going to take an extensive amount of time because you're learning, you're not getting help, you're trying to find all of that help. So how are all the other children coping at this time with that?
Right. So that is a great question because many, many people forget that dynamic. When they
Hmm.
see a child who is receiving all of the attention, other children in the home start feeling neglected or
Mm,
less than. And
yeah,
it's very unintentional, of course. But
right.
when they're going through hard times and they see me struggling as the parent, they don't want to add more to that burden, and so they can look to outside sources for that encouragement or support, and that isn't always in the best place.
Right. So was there where else were you looking for the answers? How long did it take before you realized that the other kids were, acting out? And and you did you begin looking for solutions then to figure out, okay, wait a minute, my family's falling apart here.
Yes, we I had two of my children in therapy. And
Hmm.
so there was a lot of running around. And like I said, I have five children. And so that means three of them going to football practice or dance class
Oh,
or baseball practice or whatever it might be, Wednesday night church group. All of those
yeah.
activities, we were running in a lot of different directions and going through the motions. So even
Hmm.
though I felt present, I
Yeah.
wasn't always present. And so, yes,
Yeah.
equine
And
therapy. Yeah, go ahead.
that's a struggle for a lot of moms, really. And especially when you have more than two, that becomes a bigger struggle. So it's not just that you also had this kind of struggle trying to get the kids here and there. You just also had basically special needs, children to work with, on top of that. So
Right.
I'm sure that made it even more difficult.
It did.
So now the kids are grown now. Do they look back now and realize that, you know what, y'all were doing the best you could?
Absolutely. Now they're very
Mm,
supportive and they understand what what we went through, and they know that they're loved and supported,
yeah,
and
yeah,
we really made it through a lot of ups and downs, and it was not an easy road.
yeah. I could imagine. So when did the horses come into the picture? Equine.
Yes. So when Jasmine, I want to say, was about 8 years old, we
Mhm.
heard of a local neighbor actually that was doing riding lessons. And so
Mhm.
immediately I thought, oh, that sounds fun. And it would be a
Yeah.
great activity. But little did I know the benefits that it would have. And so
Mm,
both of my girls started receiving writing lessons. And, a child will bond to an animal before they'll bond to a human being because they
mm.
can feel that trust and attachment almost immediately. And
Wow.
so the benefits that occur from that are just so profound. And when my younger daughter decided she was not into the writing lessons, she wanted to do dance and some other things, then Jasmine and I continued, and I started working with horses at that time and fell in love. And of course,
Oh.
once you have an attachment to horses, it stays with
Uh-huh.
you forever. Yes.
Wow. So how long before you started seeing a change in her? Because she's attaching to the horse, she's showing some love, accepting some love. When did that love turn to you?
So, it was actually a very gradual process, and there were other
Hmm.
things that were occurring at this time. So financially, we couldn't continue doing the writing lessons. So we did that for about 2 years. We saw some
Hmm.
progress, some things going on, and I'm like, okay, we have this. We can keep moving forward. Well, once we stopped the equine therapy and she started going through puberty,
Hmm.
then things took a very hard downturn. And the
Oh.
aggression became even more. She started acting out towards siblings, stealing things from her
Mm.
siblings, breaking them on purpose. And it
Yeah.
was very, very difficult time.
Did you end up reaching out to therapy again or therapy for her at that point?
So at that time, we got her into DBT, and
Okay.
through that process, she was making some learning skills. DBT is an incredible therapeutic approach, and that's something I now teach as well,
Yes.
and believe in it.
Hmm.
However, because her anger had gotten so difficult. She ended up going into a residential program and then was unable
Okay.
to continue with that program. So there were
Oh,
a lot of strikes that happened
right.
through this, and so that's why with Sophia's Hope Ranch, if we have a holistic one-stop shop where every one of those needs are being able to be continued, regardless at what stage is happening, then
Mhm.
that is the hope that other parents would not have to experience what we did.
I think that, a lot of times we don't see it at the time, but when God knows that He can use us as a vessel later, I think we go through things that put you in a position to start what you're doing now. How has your faith played into everything that's been going on in your life?
It has been number one. Through
Yeah.
all of it, I've been through this season where I was mad at God, I questioned him. We adopted. Why are we having these difficulties? I don't understand. What's wrong with
Yeah.
me? All of those things, those
Hmm.
questions, but knowing even during the time where I actually had walked away from the church because of other circumstances going on, eventually I knew I cannot live this life without God.
Girl,
He
you and me
has
both.
yeah, he has to be the center. Yes,
He really does. So let's talk about then where you were living because you did not live in this state right now.
that's
So you're in
correct.
a whole other state. Now
Yes,
you've moved so far away.
yes,
And so we're going to talk about, when you realized this was the purpose, this is what you wanted to do, and in a place you've never lived before.
right. And, as you know, the story started once we adopted Jasmine. The entire
Right.
time, I kept thinking, someone needs to do something. There has to be an answer. And the whole time, God's like, here, go ahead. Why not
Yeah.
you? And I argued with him, just like
Oh,
Moses.
sure.
Just like Moses did. I'm not equipped. I don't have the education. I am too shy. All of those things we tell ourselves. And so for
Yes.
25 years, I had questioned is why isn't someone doing something?
Right.
Then in 2017, I went through a divorce and
Hmm.
we were married for 33 years. And so that was
Yeah,
a big wake up call. And at that point,
definitely.
I knew God, it was time for me to submit wholeheartedly and be able to
Right.
say yes to Him, get the education I needed. I went and got my master's degree. I did everything necessary. And then in May of 22, I
Mhm.
sold my house that I lived in for 22 years
Ah,
and all of everything that I knew and packed up and
yeah,
moved to Boerne, Texas. And so at that time, I knew absolutely nobody here. I didn't
yeah.
have a church family. I didn't have a support
Mhm.
system. And so it was me and God.
Was there anything in particular that brought you to Boerne, Texas? I mean, did you just throw a dart and this is where you chose?
Well, so what's funny about that is my youngest son's wife had got transferred to San Antonio. So
Okay.
I had come and visited, and once I saw Bernie and saw I think it was the Dickens Days, which is like a
Oh, yeah.
Hallmark movie, and once you
Yes.
experience that and you think, "Oh, Lord Jesus, okay, I hear
Yeah.
you loud and clear. I could
Yeah.
definitely live there and find family, a family there." And so I had it in my mind and questioned, prayed about it for a good year and a half before I made the
Mhm.
move. And then by the time I got here, my youngest son and his wife moved back to Oregon. So I
Oh.
really, yeah, it was quite the ordeal, but it has all worked out. God is so good.
And yeah, God put you where He needed you, and you normally, probably any other time, would not have made the trip down here for any particular reason. So, and this is just where God needed you to start this program.
That's
So
right.
now let's go into you're in a brand new place.
Yes,
You don't know a lot of people, and you're
right.
fixing to start a brand new program that you've never
Yes,
even really seen done before.
that's right.
But where did you start?
So I started at the church. I went to
Mm-hmm.
church started building my community. Then I learned about inspiring women in San Antonio and
Yeah.
made connections there. They told me about Hill Country Women in Business, went and started building connections there. And little by little, through networking, through meeting people, having them know me and hear my
Hmm.
passion for this
Right.
and also, yes, education and
Hmm.
training has a lot, but there's a lot to be said for the lived experience of knowing what it's like to face the pain of
Right.
what I had gone through and wanting to save other families from experiencing that.
So, was there a particular time that you really felt like in that moment, God said, "This is the purpose I've set aside for you"? What did that moment look like for you?
It really was. It was through my master's program, actually. So I did my
Okay.
dissertation on this and had a lot of research about it, saw the benefits of working with horses. And the more research I did on different modalities, and then with my lived experience, I thought, this is it. And really,
Yeah.
God had just said, go for it. And once I submitted to him and said,
Right.
"Okay, Lord, I don't see a way, but I know you are the waymaker. I'm going to leave it
Right.
in your hands." And doors just started opening.
Yeah, that's amazing. When it is in God's plan, it's amazing how those doors open. And He's
That's
also
right.
gracious enough to close those doors whenever it's not His will. And
That's
we
right.
don't always appreciate that part of it, but we learn to appreciate that in hindsight. So,
Absolutely.
Sophia's ranch is still in its infancy,
Yes.
and you have already built a group of people that is on your board. You've started looking for land. What other steps have you taken to get all of this going so far?
Yes. So we had one fundraiser last November, and that was
Mm,
successful out at the Comfort Mansion. And
uh-huh.
then each month we're wanting to do activities, having
Okay.
a Galentine's party and women coming together and then it benefiting Sophia's Hope Ranch, getting the word out,
Hmm.
having other opportunities to just network and tell people
Hmm.
this is what we're doing. As I'm building clientele, I'm also
Right.
practicing. I'm I'm seeing veterans. I'm seeing families. I'm seeing
Oh, good.
restoration within these modalities that I'm doing. I'm improvising and using someone else's horse to provide equine therapy and
Right.
being able to work that way. And just yesterday, actually, I went and visited a beautiful piece of property that we are
Okay.
praying in faith that the Lord will provide those resources.
Yeah. So, what is your vision of what you see this ranch looking like? What is,
Yes.
the plan of how you want to set it up and everything?
Yes. So it will be a one-stop shop where
Okay.
there is residential care. There are family homes where families can come and stay on property, learn how to communicate with each other. Say,
Hmm.
for example, a veteran who has PTSD and is re
Okay.
re integrating into their life instead of having to just go back to the day to day. How about going
Hmm.
to a retreat center where you're going to be
Yeah.
having consistent couples therapy, the family
Hmm.
therapy? You're going to be doing those bonding exercises, working with animals, working with the horses, riding, haltering, gardening, all of
Yeah.
those team building exercises
Yeah.
that that is so needed. And so all families would be invited, not
Hmm.
veterans absolutely, but all
Right.
families, not just veterans. Then it would be the family is the client. So we would do a treatment plan based on each member's individual needs and
Hmm.
meeting those needs for younger children uh, play therapy and equine therapy, expressive
Hmm.
arts therapy, teaching, workshops, how to parent differently. Because for families who have adopted children who have come from hard places, it's important that they learn how to parent differently. For me, I
Right.
had 3 biological children before I adopted Jasmine, and I'm like, "I have this parenting thing down." But boy,
Yeah.
little did I know. I had no clue what I was doing, and if
Wow.
TDRI, which is trust-based relational intervention, had been around, I really think things would have been a lot different in our family.
Mhm. Right.
Yeah,
So, we talked the other day about, you said veterans when they're reincorporating back into the family. But we also talked about even families that a child that's gone through drug abuse and now they've went to treatments, they've got to integrate back in the home. And if they are a younger, child, how the parents are going to interact with them now.
right.
What other kind of traumas, because it is, you called it a name the other day, but an overall trauma, whatever has been traumatic in someone's life enough to kind of break the family up and you
Yes,
want to put the family back together. Is
yes.
that correct?
Yes,
Yeah,
so those complex traumas that
that's it.
occur
That's the
yes,
word.
yeah,
Yeah.
that occur really break that trust between
Hmm.
each member, and siblings really have a hard time. "Oh, this is what my brother does. He
Yeah.
relapses every year." And so that's the expectation. And so how is
Hmm.
the brother supposed to feel loved and supported through that if there is power in our words? And
Right. Oh,
bringing
yeah.
in the knowledge of if there's an expectation that they're going to fail, well, we find
Hmm.
what we look for, right? If
Yes.
we're looking
Yes.
for the failures, that's what we're going to see and what we're going to find. So, how can we speak to each other with encouragement and love and believe, I believe in you because you didn't have the
Right.
resources then, but you
Yeah.
do now?
Yes. And yeah, and y'all be there to give that to them. This obviously is going to be in Texas. Are there can families come from any state to be a part of this? Do they have to be from Texas?
Absolutely not. No, we are a
Okay. Good.
nonprofit, so we are
Hmm.
working on having sponsorships for families to come. We are working with insurance companies for insurance companies
Hmm.
to be able to pay for the therapies and part of that.
Okay, good. Yeah.
And so it is something that our heart is if you have a need for
Hmm.
attachment, if there's trauma, if there's communication barriers, come to Sophia's Hope Ranch and let us
Hmm.
help you and be able
Yeah.
to find that hope that
Right.
hope that comes an integrated family restoration and
Hmm.
generational transformation because within the education we also provide we talk about breaking those generational curses, being able
Hmm.
to have the legacy for your family that just because this was the pattern it doesn't mean it has to be your future. The history is
Absolutely.
history, so it's a new
Yeah.
day and a new beginning.
It is. I love that. And I hope that will instill some hope in people also, just knowing this is a possibility.
Yes,
And I love that it's called Sophia's Hope because there is hope. There is something being put together to help people. So now what are the big needs to get this all going? Because this is going to be pretty massive. So what
absolutely.
do you need people to know that y'all need?
First and foremost, money. A
Yeah.
nonprofit, it needs money. We need
Yeah.
land. We right now we're improvising. I'm doing telehealth. I have a small little office that I can provide therapy in. I have provided therapy in people's homes. I'm using someone
Mhm.
else's horse. But if
Yeah.
we could have it in one location, that really would be the the big the big need. We need location and
Yeah.
and the ranch. Then once we have that, then We'll need horses. We'll need the
Yeah.
therapy pieces. We'll need volunteers, people coming
Hmm.
who love this mission and want to be a part of it. So,
Right.
yes, the needs are plenty.
They are.
Yes.
So if someone, would like to get involved, especially in this early part to just know you have more support, how can they reach out to you? To say, hey, we can do this. We're going to sponsor you, $500 a month, for the next
Yes.
2 years, or any amount that they can
Right.
sponsor, even if they don't live here. How can they get a hold of you to start that?
Yes. So my website is sophiashoperanch.org, and it's Sophia
Okay.
with a PH.
Okay.
And my email address is sophiashoperanch@proton.me. My phone number is also on the website. It is
Okay.
503-381-5391.
That's great, and I hope people can re-listen to this and write that down. And but thank you for coming on here today and telling me about this amazing journey. And of course, 6 months from now or so, I would love to have you come back, tell us how
Absolutely.
everything's going, and then maybe what the needs are, at that point. So thank you
Yes.
so much for being on the program today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate this opportunity.
You are welcome. So, listeners, if this, episode touched your heart the way it did me, I got to sit down with Theresa for almost 3 hours the other day. And there's really so much more to this. This is what we could pack in today. But if this impacted you, if this touched your heart, then get a hold of Theresa, get a hold of me, leave comments, and we will get right back to you. So I appreciate you guys for being here today. And I look forward for the updates from this show. And you guys have a great week. I'll see y'all next week.